Welcome to Homesroom. Just like Homeroom, we start off our day getting together with our homies, swapping stories, even a little kiss and tell action. This podcast contains language not suitable for younger listeners, topics about sex and mental health. Discretion is advised. Our views are our own. Let class begin. Welcome back to Homesroom. This is going to be an interesting one. I've had a lot of people ask me to do this, so, we'll see, I guess. I decided I'm going to try and do a solo episode because shit happens and sometimes things fall through, like planning episodes, things like that. So this was supposed to be an episode with an interview, and everybody that I tried to get on for interviews just never worked out, didn't happen because of this reason or that reason. So I'm here, and we're going to talk about some horror movies. I came up with some lists for you guys to check out. Movies I like, movies that I enjoy this aspect of, and, we'll see how it goes. This may be an episode that half of you turn off before you even finish. It may be an episode that you guys are like, man, hey, I'm going to go watch that movie, or I love that movie, or you're going to write in and be like, oh my gosh, you have the worst taste in movies ever. But, I'm excited, so we'll see how that goes. So starting off, just, the normal, we are excited about the Halloween series. I think that, we had some good episodes. The interview that you're going to hear, I'm excited about. Hopefully it gets you in your spooky feels. Right now this is being recorded a little later, closer to Halloween. So it's already fall-like outside. Had some crows cawing outside my window this morning. And I think that is my favorite thing about fall. My favorite thing about, the spooky vibes of like the fall time and Halloween is when you walk outside, or when you trees are changing and all that, and then you just have a random crow at you. That's always fun. I don't know why, but hopefully you guys are having a good fall as it is right now. I am going to jump into this, and first one on my list, first topic, I kind of separated them out into like genres or topics, if you will, but first one is going to be creature design. I think when it comes to horror movies, creature designs are probably some of the most important aspects. And there's a lot of them that to me nowadays are like CGI or something like that. And I think that that's super unfortunate because I'm a big fan of practical effects. If somebody's head gets split open and it's practical effect where they used a paper mache head, I appreciate that so much more than a CGI thing. If it's, a full bust of a person and, that something gets cut off and they use that full bust, I think that that's so much cooler. And there's a person on, the start of that created that art, and I appreciate the art in it. So most of mine are going to be less CGI, more what the person looked like, I guess. But my number one, I shouldn't say number one, but my first one on this list is Bagul from Sinister. I remember that thing haunting me for months after that movie came out. It was so good, such a strong, striking like image. And then they had the drawing, because his features were so sharp, it was easy to translate into a drawing, so you knew exactly what it was. It was recognizable. I think that super cool. Something that I appreciated. I think it elevated that movie just in its scariness because that imagery was crazy. The movie wasn't as scary as I was hoping it would be. I enjoyed it. I don't know that I've watched it a ton since it's come out, but I iconically remember that Bagul from Sinister. The next one I got, and this one is a more recent, and I have yet to see the newest one, but The Nun. The Nun is definitely, hands down, one of my favorites because most of that is the actress. Most of that is the way her face is built. And, to me, when it comes to utilizing an actor's, image, their hair, their face, their chin, their whatever it is, as part of the makeup, and your prosthetics are a little bit more understated, I think that looks so good and it comes across so well, and they can act and emote and do all the things you need them to do because they don't have like 30 pounds of prosthetic on their face or a green hood on it. You can't actually even see their face. But I think that even from the beginning, when The Nun came out, seeing her face, seeing her eyes, all of those things just was like, man, I absolutely want to see whatever this movie is. And those series kind of, continued to have good imagery. Sometimes it was CGI, sometimes it wasn't, but I think that one is definitely a good one. And this one had to fall on my list somewhere because it's part of the holy grail of horror movies. But this is the only place I think it falls, is Freddy. So Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy Krueger, I think that the original makeup was super good. The burn looked so amazing, and I remember being terrified just of his appearance. I don't like those movies a ton. I don't like the subject matter necessarily. I don't like his predatory, rapey vibe. Like, that's just not something I can get behind. That, like, I just don't enjoy that kind of a film specifically, but I can say that his, the knife glove, the hat, anytime you see somebody wearing a striped shirt or a striped sweater around Christmas and it's those colors, instantly, first thing that comes to your mind is he looks like Freddy. And that means that they did a really good job of that creature design. And I think that is amazing. When you see those masks, when you see anything around Halloween, especially that is supposed to be inspired by that, you know exactly what it is, but it never looks as good, which means that makeup came out amazing. And I think that puts it in that group of like some of my favorites. Again, those are just a few of my favorites. I'd love to hear some of your favorite creature ideas or creature, that stood out to you, no matter what it is. It could be, the creature from Alien. It could be a predator. Whatever that thing is for you. I think that those are some fun ones that you can do. And if post a picture, tag me in it, whatever. I think that could be fun. So now we're going to jump from like creature design to fun scares. Things that maybe aren't as scary now as they were then, or are less watch with your fingers covering your face kind of deal. And for me, I think that those ones are usually the older movies, like the 80s, late 70s. All of those movies to me are so campy now that they're not scary, but you could see how they could have been scary back in the day. And I remember watching them with my dad when I was younger, or watching, trying to sneak in a room and watch them because somebody else was watching them. And, there's a little bit of nostalgia to it too. So like the fear and like excitement of watching, of like trying to sneak in and watch maybe has a part in this too. But as far as fun scares go, I'm going to say the Evil Dead original. Bruce Campbell in general was just a good actor for the role, but I really, really, really loved a lot of how that world was shot in like realistic style, but a goofy, like, what the heck is going on, almost Three Stooges like mentality. It's kind of hard to explain, I guess, but I love that thing. And I remember some of that stuff would be like creature design and things like that could also be kind of scary, but in the end it's a fun movie and a fun thing, and I always enjoy that. The next one is more recent, but Ready or Not, I just watched this the other day actually. That's such a fun, slashery, horror-y kind of movie, and I personally think it falls under the horror movie banner. But I think it's so fun because it kind of, anything with like a reverse killer mentality direction is really fun for me. So like Last House on the Left is grotesque and gruesome until it turns on its head, and now the bad guys are the guys running for their lives. Like I love that thing. So Ready or Not kind of falls on that, where it's put yourself in that position. Is this real? Is this not real? And some of the kills are really funny. The parts with the maids and all that, it's funny. And all the way up to the end, there's things to laugh at and things to joke about. And I think that's really fun and made for a really good movie. Actors did amazingly all around. Every one of them did really good. Creepy grandma being creepy grandma. I think she did everything she needed to do with that role, and I loved that. Uh, I can't say enough about that movie as one that like I could definitely put on and get something done around the house and just like look over at the screen and giggle. That those are always good movies for me. The last on that list, and not last by any standards, and if you're ever wondering or questioning how often I want to mention these movies and don't, all the time, every time. If I post this part for the video, or if you've ever seen any of our video content, right behind me is a bunch of Jason Voorhees things and fun scares, wrapping up that particular segment with Friday the 13th as a whole, the entire series. I think those movies are, like I said, they fall under that like 80s, early 90s ish. Like now they don't have as much scare to them, but back then I could see how like that thing would terrify you and you'd be afraid to go to the lake because some creature was going to grab you or something. And I think that for me growing up, Friday the 13th was one of those movies that like when they did the marathons and all that, I would watch them and I would just be like, man, this thing is so crazy and these people are so silly to not just like, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? And like I said, fun scare. I think that embodies the Friday the 13th, where it's like somehow they're still getting got by this creature that doesn't move, or somehow he's still popping up, and somehow he has the ability to use this weed whacker that's got like a friggin' circular saw blade attached to it, or somehow he's walking down a street in Manhattan, or like those so many fun scenes in those movies, and I just love that. So if you want a fun scare, check out the original Evil Dead, Ready or Not, or any of the Friday the 13th. I would personally say New Blood. That's my favorite, even though it usually ranks pretty low on all of people's lists. That one is my favorite because of reasons. So go check those out. Staying on like the fun vibe, let's hit some comedies. Horror comedies are kind of a hard one for me. I don't like dumb movies, and I always catch flack for this, but I don't like dumb movies. I don't like movies where, the whole point is to just like shut your brain off and like laugh at this dumb, goofy thing. Like, again, I'm gonna catch flack for it, but like Will Ferrell, I'm just not a big Will Ferrell fan. Like, my wife loves Elf, and I like it because she likes it, and I watch it because she wants to watch it, and she gets enjoyment out of it. But I would rather be doing a million things than watch that movie. But I find horror comedies to need a point and not just be like spoofs or one thing, but like just to be funny. It needs a point. It has to be a good movie on top of being a comedy. It doesn't just work. So with that said, my first one, and I think this one probably hits a lot of your lists, is Shaun of the Dead. Can't go wrong with zombies, in my opinion, as a zombie writer. Can't go wrong with Simon Pegg as a funny person. I think that he ends up doing a lot of good things and doesn't overdo the funny. He doesn't make it something insanely over the top. It's like right at that edge, which to me is a mark of a good actor and a good comedy actor. But that one it's got a good story, and I can relate to some of the dramas and some of the like situations that happen. Like, I don't know what I would do in that situation, and if that's what you're going to do with the film, then I've put myself in that position. I have become part of the story, and I think they did a really good job in Shaun of the Dead. My favorite scene is when they're in the bar and the jukebox comes on and they're whacking the creature or the zombie to the beat of the song, and that to me is just so funny. And it shouldn't be funny. Ordinarily, I would think that was like, really? But it works in that moment, in that scene. And then, the whole gun, is it loaded? Is it real? Is it a thing? And then I fucking knew it. It did everything it needed to do. It hit all those points. I love the, groups meeting together, and it's a group of like doppelgangers. That's always so funny to me because I wonder where did they end up going? How did that group go? Like, I could go watch a whole like side segment about how that group's life went, and I think that they did a really good job there. And what are you going to say when like Bill Nighy is you know, a angry stepfather who ultimately is like, I've always loved you. I was always proud of you. And then you're like, man, what are you doing? I always like him in everything as well. And I think he did a good job in that. It's not something that I would have expected him to do, but definitely something that I'm glad he did choose to do. Moving on from that one, Scary Movie 1, the first one. I remember enjoying that movie, and I don't watch it often now, but back then, anytime it was on, I definitely watched it because it was funny, and me and my sister still make jokes about it, now, and there's a whole almost genre in itself that was born from that movie, and I think that shows how well it was received back then to have this ongoing thing where they continuously make those movies based off of that thing. Like I said, whether or not now I would watch them, I don't know, but I definitely think that that's one that was really good. And if you haven't seen it or you haven't seen it in a while, maybe go back and check it out and get a laugh this Halloween season. And last on the list, and this time I'm going to say last but meaning first, as in something I was super surprised by. I didn't want to watch originally, heard it on NOFS. That's Nightmare on Film Street for those that are uneducated. Go check that podcast out for sure. But Tucker and Dale versus Evil. I didn't know what to expect. It seemed kind of silly. I wasn't sure that I thought it was going to be those movies. Like I said, I just don't like, all that kind of stuff. But in the end, I loved it. It was so funny. I ended up buying it. Yes, we still buy DVDs if you're questioning that. And if you don't still buy DVDs, are you really a movie fan? Because once it stops streaming, or if for some reason it does stop streaming, or they pull it from that streaming service and now you can only pay to watch it, what are you going to do? Pay to watch it every time you want to watch it, as opposed to paying for it that one time. And now I have it forever until my kids scratch the disc or my DVD player breaks and they stop making DVD players. Wait, maybe streaming is better. I don't know. What do you think? Anyway, moving on. It was so funny. From the very beginning, it hits all those tropes. It hits all those things that like everybody should always be worried about when it comes to going into the woods on a vacation, but it turns it on its ear. And our scary, country folk that you always have as a harbinger at the beginning of a movie, and they're going to be the serial killer in the end, there are lovable heroes who are just trying to have a fun time to, take their mind off of life. And all these crazy teenagers are the problem. I just can't say enough about the plot of that movie, and I don't know if all of you have seen it, so I'm not going to spoil it too much, but with that, like I said, I think that one's really good. I think it's worth a watch. That's Tucker and Dale versus Evil. I hope that if you haven't seen it, you check it out, and if you have seen it, I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I did. Moving from comedy, we're going to go to Vamps, which is also kind of comedy because I don't really like vampires. I can't, like, some people have that thing where like they can't get around zombies, and like I wrote a zombie book, so like obviously I like zombies, but there's other people that are just like, they don't make sense to me. I don't understand how they can exist. Vampires are a thing that just like I just can't get behind because they never just hold the weight that I want them to hold in the thing where it's like, well, wait, but why doesn't this work? But why did they do this? But why did that vampire? And there's no like unified set of rules for vampires. And for something that's been around for so long, you would think that there's a unified world where vampires exist. And for some reason, vampire movies never explain their rules. They just take for granted that how vampires work, but then they do things that other vampires don't do. So you got to establish your rules. That's just a pet peeve of mine when it comes to vampires. But I will say there are some good ones, and I got three of my favorites, and that's going to be number one, and literally number one again, 30 Days of Night. I think those are the best vampires I've ever seen. I enjoyed that movie so much. I watch it again every time it's on, and I just think it's such an interesting concept to take a vampire community to a place where it's going to be dark for an extended period of time. Like, why have we not seen that more often? Why has that not been more of a mainstream thing to do? I think that's so crazy. And to have your mind wrapped around, they come back every once in a while. So by the time the stories would be getting out, there's nobody left to tell the story. So nobody knows what happened. And people kind of like, maybe we'll abandon this town. Maybe we'll come back. and because they live forever, they just come back again. I think that that's super scary in itself to just think about on like a generational thing. Like, yeah, the one kid that survived tells his family about it, but what happens? They don't live there anymore, and all of the Alaskan towns just shut down for 30. Like, it wouldn't happen. They can always do it, and I think that that is super super spooky in itself. But also the creature designs were really good. Again, it was kind of, you know, CGI graphic-y, but I can give it a break because the concept was really good. And when it comes to how 30 Days of Night progresses, I think it was just fast-paced enough to not lose interest, but just detailed enough to get a feel and relate to the characters and have, you know, like a little bit of like attachment to people. And if you've seen that movie and you watch the whatever convenience store, gas station, whatever that is, scene, that it just like sets it off for me. And after that moment, it's like, buckle up, this is a crazy world. Again, a little bit of nostalgia feel for this next one, and that's The Lost Boys. I think that that should probably fall on a lot of people's their lists for vampires. I think that it created a craze of vampire at the time, and it maybe launched a little bit of the vampire heartthrob thing that existed, or that it still kind of exists. I don't know. I wasn't alive back then in that situation, so I don't know. But I love that movie, and I love the you know, it's kind of every teen buddy movie where they band together, you know, a la Stranger Things, and overcome something. And they did a really good job of that, but also, you know, what the vampires do and how they hang out and all of that was like, you know, satanic, panicky, and they did a good job of that. I think that in the end, when it comes to like a vampire list, Lost Boys should always fall on it. If you haven't seen that movie, you definitely need to go see that movie. And it's been talked about so much, I don't know what I could say that hasn't been already said. So moving on, in the same vein of Lost Boys, the original movie, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, clearly kicked off so much that has to do with vampires. And we're about to get a audiobook series thing about Spike from the TV show, and some of the characters are reprising their roles to do the voice work, and I think that that is super exciting this many years later, and all kicking off with Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the movie. I think that that movie is one that I remember watching with my dad and being like, damn, chicks kick ass. And I can always get behind that. And if you listen to this podcast, you know that I can always get behind that. So I love that one. I think, like I said, that one is definitely one that I wish I would watch more. I need to buy. Or if you're looking for a Christmas gift, you can get it for a Christmas gift for me. I would appreciate that. But yeah, again, I think that the vampire itself doesn't have to be super cool like 30 Days of Night and strategic like 30 Days of Night. It just needs to be something that's interesting. And those vampires were interesting. Those vampires were like different from vampires. They weren't just like pretty boys. They were just people. And, you know, the silent killer that could be next to you in any room. And I felt that through those movies. Or through that movie and then through the series. And I'm a big Angel fan. All of those things. So like I wouldn't have that without this. So I appreciate those. So that's got to make the vampire list. Moving on, we're going to go with Bumps in the Night. So like your spooky, haunted-y, ghosty, demon-y things that, you know, kind of triad of horror movies, you know, Bumps in the Night, vampires, you know, slashers, like those are your core groups. So on this list, we're gonna go with The Conjuring. The first one, I think the series is really good in general. Some of them are better than others. Some of them didn't, like, you got to be in the right mood for that one to be good, because you can go back to it and watch it again and be like, oh, I like this more than I thought, or man, I don't like this as much. Similarly to me is Insidious. Like, that's one that, like, I like but I don't like, and some of them are better than others, and then it's kind of just like, wah. But The Conjuring is definitely one that had to make this list. Gave us The Nun, which I already talked about. Um, I think that the based on a true story aspect of it, not knowing what is and is not true, I can't really say, but knowing that that stuff has a kernel of truth, and as you will hear in these Halloween episodes, I believe in all that stuff. I have had experiences, and I don't sell anybody else's experience short. Maybe I need a little bit more evidence sometimes, or a little bit more of a story than I get, but to each their own. But The Conjuring, the first one specifically, definitely did a really good job and set the hook for what was to come. I know that The Conjuring kind of falls on a lot of people's lists for like, man, those are really good. And this is where it kind of gets sad to me, is because I realized how modern my list is. There's not a lot of old horror or 90s horror or like classics, and that's because honestly this is a shotgunned episode, and I didn't have enough time to like really think about it, so I just started writing down movies in these categories that I could remember and what stood out in my head. So I'm sure given more time, given a little bit more effort, I could come up with a list that ranges more of a time span than what this one does. So forgive me, I apologize. I didn't want to go a week without an episode, so you do what you got to do to get the job done. Moving on, 13 Ghosts. That is another bump in the night ghost movie that is just really good. Again, good story. I love what they did with it. I love the creature designs. The jackal's really scary. The Juggernaut is like, I don't know if that dude was CGI or if that dude just looks like that. I need to look into it to answer this question for myself. But that dude was like giant, looked like creepy. If I saw that thing coming in real life, even if it was not makeup, it was just the dude looked like that, I might be like, I'm gonna go over here because that guy looks scary. The princess, I think, is what the name of that ghost is, the girl that's all cut up. I think that thing I actually had pop up in a dream after I saw this for the first time, and it scared the living shit out of me, because it literally is just a person that's like cut up with weird skin. Like it scared me, and super vivid. The like Latin writing in the walls and in the ground, like that element was done really well. I don't know if it was CGI. I need to look into it because I never looked into it. The design and the thought process through that, I would love to have been in that writer's room where they were just bouncing ideas off the wall, and then in the creative room when they were coming up with how to make this stuff work, how that went together, because all of those pieces came together really well and made a good movie. I'll have to find the post on my personal Instagram and share it to the writer page, but watching it not too long ago, I discovered the director pops up in the background, and I assume he must have been down there to direct or down there to get a view of what he wanted the camera to see in a take or something. But there's a guy under a table, and in a scene change, when a camera moves, you can see him. And I always love finding those in movies, because it's just like, hey, wait. And I looked it up, trying to figure out who it was going to be, and it was the director. And I don't even know if he knows that that's out there. I would assume it's been pointed out before, but if not, I thought that was crazy. Like I said, I'll post the picture. If you find random moments like that in movies, tag me in them, post the pictures, whatever you got to do, because I think that that's just so fun to see. Like, we digress from what we're doing, and us, we fall down rabbit holes. But in Without a Paddle, when they're in the weed field, right before I don't remember who it is, but one of them ducks. I think it's Dak Shepard. I think he ducks, and the weed stem gets shot off and breaks and falls down. Right before that, there's a shot of the ground, and you could see a person crawl from right to left through that maze of like weed plants, and I assume that was the person that was going to trigger whatever made the stem break. But it was just so funny to see it. Like, wait, did you see that? There was a person back there. And of course, it's like, no, there wasn't. And you rewind it, and it's like, hey, there was a person. So yeah, go check that one out too. I think that's pretty funny. But last on this list, and this one I think will probably catch flack and is a polarizing movie. And I love that it's a polarizing movie because that means it did its job. Anything that ever polarizes people, I think it accomplishes its goal. And sometimes it's a bad thing, sometimes it's a good thing. In this case, it's a good thing. But Paranormal Activity, number one, the first one, demand it to watch it. Demand it, demand it. I think that movie created a craze. I don't care whether you hated it, whether you think it's the dumbest thing in the world, all of that kind of stuff. I really don't care. This movie scared me because I've had experiences, and they did a lot of good things with it. They did some research on, demonology and things, and created a good creature. Where they went from the first one on, it got a little convoluted and weird and strange, and I can appreciate what you're saying there. But this first one did its job. It hit its mark. I remember, sad moment. When this movie came out, my friend Travis, who passed away, him and I had a conversation that probably lasted like 45 minutes about what this movie was, how scary it was for people, but ultimately it was somebody sitting on the other side of the wall, hitting the wall with their fist, just going bump, bump, thump, and creating this scary thing. But ultimately you never saw anything. It wasn't anything. And then they did some stop motion stuff, and it was all done psychologically. And to me, that makes that movie one of the best of its kind. So fight me. I don't know. Going on from there, we're going to go with Give It a Shot. So Give It a Shot to me is movies that like you might not have seen, or you might have wanted to see, but then heard mixed reviews and never really like grabbed it, all that kind of stuff. And that kind of falls on these. So first one, this one is one of my favorites, and I like it because it came from a different direction than what I was expecting it to, and more analytical, intellectual aspect than I was prepared for, but I loved that element of it. And that's The Exorcism of Emily Rose. Fun fact, the actress that played Emily Rose, when they picked her because she could do some of the like body contortions, and they thought how cool it would be to incorporate that. So there's that. But also, they just did a really good job of doing some research and approaching it from the angle of, how do you prove this thing? How do you make this thing happen? How do you say this is real or this is fake in a court of law? And the United States has a interesting innocent and proven guilty, so the burden of proof is on the side of, I don't have to defend it. I just have to make enough confusion around it to prove that there's an alternate theory. And I think they did a really good job. It was a riveting movie for me, and it's gone down as one of my favorites. I used to have the poster hanging. I probably still have the poster somewhere. It's definitely one that I watch almost every Halloween season because I love it so much. But yeah, that's one that I think you should give a shot to, and don't go into it expecting super scary. Go into it expecting kind of a mystery thriller that happens around an exorcism. That's what I would say. Another one. This one, me and Courtney watched maybe 2 Halloweens ago, scrolling through trying to find something to watch for the Halloween season. I think we were on Shudder or Prime or something, and we had Shudder through Prime. We were scrolling through and we popped up with this thing, and it was like Hell House LLC with really, like run-of-the-mill graphics for the image that was on the screen to tell you about the movie. And we were like, man, whatever, let's read about it, see what it is. And it's a Halloween haunted house thing some friends decide to do, and it kind of looked low budget, documentary style, found footagey. and I love some found footage, so like, yeah, whatever, you know. And we turned it on, and I absolutely freaking loved this movie. It scared me. I was like definitely in a spot of man, that kind of stuck with me. The imagery was really good, and the story was really good. And ultimately, you know, when it comes to a good low budget independent film, if the imagery is really good, I think everything else kind of just falls away. The story could not be as good, but the imagery just sticks with you. And there's one particular clown that got me hard, and that clown, oh my gosh, like I till this day I could still fall asleep and feel that, and that's like, I don't know, but I enjoyed it. And then it became, I don't know if there's 3 of them or just 2 of them, but there's a sequel series-ish is not as good. We started watching a bunch of other haunted house documentary type found footage films because we love that one so much, and they just didn't hit the same. They just weren't the same. So that one definitely falls on this list because I didn't originally want to give it a chance, and I did, and it is definitely one of my favorites now. Last one on the list, and this one is, you know, 2000s horror, I guess, but Ghost Ship. That is one of my favorites. Wasn't expecting to like it. It's one of those, you know, turn it on, use it as background noise, watch it, you know, for me, but definitely enjoyed it. I think the storytelling of what happened and the creepy little girl and all that, like, is so good. And then once you finally see what happens and where some of the, you know, massacre is, it was just so good. And that little girl actress making faces and her reaction, it was done really well. I think that one is super good, definitely worth the shot. Watch that. I don't know what else to tell you, but if you have some give it a shots, that's another one I would love to hear from you. Send it in, comment on this post, whatever we do. Interaction. And with a movie list like this, I'm sure everybody's got opinions. So if you got a horror movie that falls under any of these categories that you think I should watch, or you're curious as if I've seen it, what my opinion is, yeah, I know I just said that, but just write it out. DM me, whatever you got to do. I would definitely love to hear some feedback on this one, and you know what your thoughts are. So we're coming to the end. I got favorites. So my favorites are kind of a few different areas because I didn't want to just like narrow it down. And anybody that knows me personally knows that I have a really hard time, really hard time coming up with favorite things. I just never have. So this one was hard to do, but I did it anyway, just for you. I did it for the pod. I suffered through, oh my gosh, it was so hard. Sorry, I had to take a moment. The Ruins was really good. I remember watching that one in the theater and just like being grossed out and feeling like things were crawling on me, and you know, like, God, when the guy's back snapped, like the sound, all of it was just like so wow. That one has a lot of vivid memories for me, so it definitely falls under the like favorites. And to set up The Ruins, it's friends going on a vacation. They come across a Mayan ruin. They go up the stairs, and when they camp out up there, they start having some weird stuff going on with the vegetation. And then when they try and leave, the indigenous people to that area don't let them leave. They don't let them come down off this Mayan pyramid temple. I don't know what the word is for it. Sorry, I'm uneducated on the thing. But they don't let them leave. And then the longer they stay up there, the more this vegetation starts to become invasive, literally, and makes them go crazy, makes them do things, makes them, you know, it's just such a simple concept with a high reward, in my opinion. So check that one out. The Ruins definitely falls on my favorite. Also, if anybody's ever heard me talk about horror movies or slashers or anything like that, ghosts are cool. I believe in all that stuff, obviously, like I've said before. Vampires, I kind of like. I like some of them, but it takes a specific thing to get there. I love zombies, but again, zombies, it's give or take. the number one thing that always gets me in a horror movie above everything else, and I will hang on feeling terrified for days, weeks, is fucking people. There's even a Supernatural episode where Dean says it. People, man, people. Because in the end, a crazy person is a crazy fucking person. And there's no way to know how crazy a person's going to be. There's no way to know that there's not a crazy person living under your floor or in your shed or whatever that you just haven't discovered yet. That literally 3 weeks ago, there was a guy who got discovered living under some lady's house. And she discovered him or in a hole out in her backyard or something. She discovered him because his arm was sticking out. Like, that stuff happens in real life. So it's just like, man. So, in that vein, one of my favorites, The Strangers. That movie can be summed up in, why are you doing this? Because you were home. And I just, wow. Like, wow. The masks were creepy and, again, iconic. Whenever you see the, pinup girl style mask, like The Woman, I believe is what she's called in the credits. Whenever you see that mask, it's just like, I know exactly what that is, and it's super creepy. Tamra's mask is also creepy, but it's creepy in that, like, smiley, giggly baby face kind of way, and like all of these horrors that are being done by this person with this smiley face at you is just like sticks in your brain. And then obviously the guy, the leader, his mask holds so much history in the way that it appears. It's super simple. It's literally just like a pillowcase. But, depending on your culture, depending on your background, that could be, a train robber, because there's, train robbers in the Wild West that did the same thing. It could be almost, a racist element with early Klans members and things like that. Like, there's so much embedded in what his mask was that his story is told before he even says anything, before he even does anything. And that I love. They did a really good job in all of that. And, our two characters that we follow are in a relationship spat. And I always love any movie that has to do with this other thing going on while dealing with this issue. So, for instance, Cloverfield, same thing. Love triangle, weird situation where guy wants girl is with other guy, and then the world ends, and he's got to get there. My book is actually, based off of that same kind of situation, because I just love those stories. The zombie apocalypse is happening, but this guy needs to get back to his wife who just passed away of cancer to lay her to rest and to make sure that she's not walking around somewhere, because how could you live with yourself in that situation? And this movie falls under that same thing, where we may not be in love right now, and so much has happened in all of these situations, but goddamn, I don't want to see you die. We're going to get out of this, babe. And that's what we got to do. So yeah, that one falls on one of my favorites. I love that movie. One of my all-time favorites, and I don't know where this one falls on a lot of people's lists. I don't know if you've seen it. But As Above, So Below. It is a movie about the French catacombs and a weird alchemy legend about Famel and essentially, magical stone. And that concept sounded really silly to me going in, and then I watched it and I loved this movie. It's not necessarily like scary on the like jump scare or scary like sit with you and like you're gonna have nightmares for weeks, but it's definitely going to make you think and realize some stuff about yourself if you watch it and take it in. At least it did for me. And psychological movies like that are my favorite. I'm kind of a cerebral person when it comes to stuff like that, so it did a really good job. Again, I'm big on imagery. The catacombs were really good. I thought that the sets looked really amazing for what they were. It was found footage kind of shot, and all of those, like I said, I love found footage, so it did its job for that for me. those are just some of my favorites. Hopefully you guys got some favorites. I'm going to move on from my favorites to movies I got a soft spot for. First one, Night of the Comet. If you've never seen that one, my dad loved it. My dad always made the comment that like the two sisters in that movie were my sisters in his mind, and he just loved the way that they were. So that one's always kind of got like a familial tie for me. I love it so much. I love the way that they just exist, and how they were at odds with each other at first, but then once the world ended, they knew they had each other, and that's what they got to do. And they survived the almost zombie apocalypse, I guess. I don't know what you would really call those creatures. Zombies is what we'll go with. But, I think that one is a really, really soft spot 80s movie that, like, isn't necessarily good, but definitely worth a watch if you've never seen it. Just kind of go check it out with the vein of it's going to be silly, it's going to be campy, it was made for a different generation, but still worth it. Next on the list, and this had to fall on my list somewhere, as a Marylander, as somebody that has stayed at Skycroft, which is just outside of Burkittsville, Maryland, so close, in fact, you can stand on a hill and see the town. The Blair Witch Project. The Blair Witch Project is one of those movies where you hear legends like that. There's so much history in that area of the country that, like, goddamn, it could be true. It might not be true. Is it real? Is it not real? And, like, obviously, yeah, the movie is a movie. But the stories and the legends and things like that all started with a kernel of truth. And I remember when that movie came out, how wild it was to be living in Maryland at the time. And then I think 3 years later is when I stayed at a camp for school overlooking the town, and they were like, we promised the movie was fake, it wasn't real, don't worry about it. But they did it in a way that almost made you feel like they were trying to convince you it wasn't real, which made it that much crazier in that time frame, again, which puts it as a soft spot because I'm from that area. So yeah, that one definitely hits home. And again, found footage, I love it so much. Found footage, can't say it enough. If you got some found footage movies that you think I would like, send them my way, because I might like them. We might be able to bond over it. Yeah, that movie, I hope that you've seen it by now, or at least you know enough about it that I don't have to go, like, again, I don't know what I could say. But another soft spot movie for me, the Amityville Horror with Ryan Reynolds. That one, there's two scenes that scared the shit out of me when I saw it originally. And that's the scene where the little boy is walking to the bathroom, and then there's one of the ghosty slave people in the bathroom with him, and you get a quick shot of it, and it's a jump scare. The image of that sat with me for a really long time, and I used to have, in my younger days, bonus ghost story for you. I told you I'd have one, and here we go. I used to have a bathroom at the very end of my hallway, so I'd have to walk past my sister's door, past my other sister's door, and then into the bathroom finally. I walked past one night my first sister's door, and I felt like somebody was looking at me, but it didn't feel like it was eyes from that room. It felt like it was eyes from behind me. So I took another quick step, and I stopped before I go past my next sister's door and take a deep breath. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to jump past this door, and move, and it'll be fine. And then I'll get to the bathroom, and it'll be all right. And I'll close that door, and everything will be good. And then also setting up, there's stairs to my right. So walking down the hallway, there's a railing you can see through with stairs that lead down to the first floor. As I'm standing there, I get ready to take that leap. And as I'm getting ready to, something on the stairs creaks or moves or something. It sounds like somebody hitting one of the metal spindles. So I stop my jump and hesitate. So I end up landing in the doorway from my sister's room. And my sister didn't have anything on, at least not that I could know. But it definitely felt like those eyes were now, like, I could almost feel breath on my neck. They were that close. So I shoot to the bathroom, and I was like, okay, I'm in the bathroom. I'm safe now. Turn on the light, close the door, all that kind of stuff. Go to the bathroom. I couldn't see into the mirror because it was too high at the age I was. So I just kind of like, I don't have to worry about seeing anything in the mirror behind me. Jump in, or I shouldn't say jump in. I turn out the light, jump out in the hallway, and as I turn out the light, I just slightly see what looked like a figure behind me in the corner of the mirror, high enough that I'm looking up, so I just see the top of its torso as the light comes off. And I just remember shooting to my room, closing the door, getting under the covers, and just kind of like scared for the next, I don't know, however many hours it was until I finally fell asleep because I just couldn't stay awake anymore. But yeah, that was a terrible one. So Amityville Horror has a scene similar to that. Relate to it. Hit me in the feels. It's a soft spot, but also it was like actually a pretty good movie for the most part. I enjoy it. I don't know the story well enough to know what they got right or what they got wrong. I didn't really look into it, but I think they did a good job, and Ryan Reynolds acted pretty well in it. All of the actors in that movie did a pretty good job, I think. But yeah, that is wrapping it up. I don't have a That's What She Said because I don't have a co-host this week, which makes me really, really sad. And Caitlin, if you listen to this episode, know that you were dearly missed. Can't thank you enough. And usually I thank you on air and you're here so you can, whatever, but I'm just so glad to have given you a chance. But you can't do that right now. So I get to gush over you and you just have to take the compliment and just hear it. So continue doing great things. Continue doing, all the stuff that you're passionate about out there, Caitlin. Hopefully your podcast by this point has launched and you're continuing to gain momentum. I love seeing everything that you're doing with that. Just let me know how to support you better, and I will do everything in my power to accomplish that. So, mushy stuff out of the side. I guess I got That's What He Said for this week, which I don't know if we're ever going to do again, but, we'll see how it goes, I guess. Only thing I can say is if you are out there wondering whether, things are going to be okay, or wondering whether the world is accepting or loving, or if you're ever going to catch a break, or if people even notice your suffering, I promise you somebody notice. I promise you the world can get better. But we, as those people suffering, have to remember it's up to us to right the ship enough to hold on, to realize we have value, not to anybody else, but to ourselves. I struggle with that a lot, and I have to constantly remind myself that I'm more than my job. I'm more than being a parent. I'm more than, the person that cooks dinner or whatever that thing is. So if you're out there and you're thinking, I'm worthless, I have no value, or you're thinking my only value is XYZ. No, your value is to yourself. And I know how hard that is to come to terms with. I know how hard that is to, accept in oneself, because I fight it all the time myself personally. But we got to remember that. We have to stand in ourselves and know that at the end of the day, people love us. There are people out there that care and would notice and would be hurt and would feel all the feels that we're worried that people don't if we weren't here. So we have to remember for ourselves, I want to be here for me because I want to see where the story goes. I want to see, the things that might happen that I don't have any idea that could happen. Could things get worse? Absolutely. But could things get better? For sure. And that's the part that I think we have to focus on is, could things get better? One thing I always kind of tell myself is, well, do I know that somebody could come along and do better? Maybe. Do I know that something could come along and do worse? I mean, yeah, I've seen worse. So what is important in this situation? Is this for me? Is this something I just need to let go? Is this something I need to hold on to or not? And if it's something that somebody can come along and help me in this situation, then reach out to those people. Let somebody help you do better. If somebody comes along and it's well, this thing is going to only get worse, reevaluate and maybe think about the situation. And is this really serving me? Is this person really helpful? Is this person really doing something that is going to be of benefit to me? And if you can't say yes, then maybe distance yourself from that person or that thing, whether it's social media, whatever it is. So all of that to say, we got to love ourselves. And if we're not loving ourselves, then how are we going to accept love from somebody else? And not saying that other people are not loving us, saying we have to admit to ourselves that, like, on some level, I care about me. So if I care about me, somebody else could care about me, or somebody else does care about me. And I know that's easy to say sitting on, a microphone on the other side of a screen or whatever, but I know that anybody listening to this, I care about you. And if you just need one person to care about you, motherfucker, you got it. Have a good day. I love you guys. Thanks for listening to this one. Hopefully it wasn't too bad. Yeah, that's just kind of what it is. Enjoy. Run. The bell is about to ring. If you want to drop us a voice message or simply ask a question, you can do that by clicking the link in the show notes below. Be sure to leave us a 5-star review. It helps more people find us. Theme music by Kinsey. More music available on Spotify. Remember, every day is a class. Go learn something.